It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM. All right, nostalgia buffs. Ken Marshall is in the studio with us. He's a Purchase Line grad. He's an IUP grad. His kids go to IUP or went to IUP, and he's finally here in studio with us, the State System of Higher Education spokesman, making the trip from Harrisburg this morning with the new chancellor, Dr. Green Stein. Good to meet you.
Thank you. Good to meet you finally.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot of times, but it's the first time I've been in the studio.
Yeah. So what's it like taking a 4-hour trip across the state with the doc?
No, it's I'm getting used to it now, I guess, because we're in the process of a 14 campus tour of the system. The new chancellor wants to visit all of the campuses. We've been to Shippensburg and Millersville. Those were the easy ones. Those were day trips for us. But last week we spent a day at Mansfield and a day at Lock Haven. Next week we're going to Slippery Rock, Clarion, Edinburgh, and Bloomsburg. And following week we'll be at California and IUP. I joke are two out-of-state universities.
Well, it's good that you're here today, and we should explain that you're here because the State System Board of Governors is meeting. It's holding its fall meetings here at IUP, and that's something new, isn't it, to take the governors' meetings away from Harrisburg?
Yes, it is. I mean, I've been with the system now for almost 21 years, and this is really only our second meeting off of the outside of Harrisburg. So the Board of Governors thinks it's a good idea, and I do too, that they get out onto the campuses occasionally. So starting this fall, we're going to try to have our October meetings on a different campus location every year.
Mm-hmm. Explain, if you would, the Board of Governors as a body, what it is that they do and how it is that they go about setting policies for the state system.
Sure. The Board of Governors it's a 20-member group, 11 members appointed by the governor. We have 3 students representatives, 4 legislators. The governor and the Secretary of Education sit on the board. They're responsible for setting overall policies for the universities, for the system. They appoint a chancellor. They appoint the presidents with with a lot of input from the local council of trustees. But they set tuition. They negotiate contracts with the 8 different unions that represent system employees. And the universities have a lot of individual autonomy, but general overall policies are set by the board.
And right now, the board and the state system as a whole are involved in a state system redesign. This really is something that is groundbreaking, isn't it?
It is. The system's been around for about 35 years, and not much has changed in the way it's governed. A lot of things have, obviously there's been a great evolution of the system over the 35 years, but in terms of looking at how the system operates and how things are done, there hasn't been a lot of change to the law that established the board or that established the system. What we're looking at now is basically we had a top to bottom review. Actually, there were 2 of them. We had one done. The legislature had one done. There are a lot of recommendations on things maybe we can do differently, and that's where we are now. We're taking those reviews and starting to implement them. We made some changes already. It used to be if a university wanted to offer a new program, that had to be approved by the Board of Governors. We've streamlined that process so that universities can act more quickly. The chancellor now has the final authority on approving new programs. But really, new programs work from the ground up. They're an idea of faculty, usually initially. They develop them, they design them, and the approval process. But what we've done is make it a much faster, smoother process to go from concept to classroom, and that's good for students. And that's really what we're looking at in this redesign. Is our number one priority is ensuring student success. And that's what all of us should be about.
The state legislature report, as you mentioned, is something that is entirely a different process than that the state system itself has undertaken. And some of those recommendations raised a few eyebrows in Harrisburg among both the lawmakers and among the state system itself and the Board of Governors. As the dust has settled around that and you've been able to take a closer look at some of those recommendations, what have been some of the reactions from the state system standpoint to some actually pretty radical steps that were part of that whole legislative review process?
I think what is really important to note in both our review and actually the subsequent the legislative review is there is a significant amount of interest in this system and in our universities. I think there's a significant realization that these universities are vital to the communities they're located in, to the regions that they serve, and I think that's a good thing. I think we're viewing it as a good thing that the legislature has taken so much interest. They understand that we are struggling financially, we are struggling in enrollments, and there's a reason for that. Pennsylvania the demographics in Pennsylvania have changed dramatically since the early 2000s when we were continuing to grow. All of our universities, we went through about a 15-year stretch of enrollment growth every year for close to 15 years. Since 2010, we've been on a downward trend. And if you look at the number of high school graduates in Pennsylvania, particularly in Western Pennsylvania, those numbers have been declining. Everybody realizes we have to address that. We have to look at ways to, attract more non-traditional students. Historically, IUP, the other 13 universities in the system, have drawn close to 90% of their students from Pennsylvania. About 85% of those students have been traditional, 18 to 25-year-olds right out of high school, gone to college. That population is shrinking. There's tremendous competition in Pennsylvania. There's over 150 colleges and universities in Pennsylvania that grant 4-year degrees. So there's tremendous competition for a declining number of traditional students. We understand, that the legislature understands, I think, that we need to look at a new market. We need to look at non-traditional students, adult learners who maybe had started college but never finished. They need some additional courses for career advancement. We need to look at that market. We need to look at other ways of attracting students who have been underserved. We have a lot of first-generation students in Pennsylvania, the first members of their families to go to college. But there are a lot more out there who don't even think of college. Is a 4-year degree right for everyone? No. But it is certainly, an option for a lot of students. It's also, we have certificate programs. We have other programs for students who, maybe a 4-year degree isn't right. But, all the data shows that in the future, people are going to need some education beyond high school. And we need to look at how we can serve that market as well.
Kenn Marshall is with us, spokesman for the state system of higher education. I mentioned you're a purchase line graduate, you're an IUP graduate, your kids went to IUP as well. Obviously, the university means a lot to you. It's close to your heart. As you have watched some of the struggles the entire system has undergone, and struggles that IUP has had, which are unique to IUP, I know that there's an overall feeling at the state system that we can all do better. And IUP has undertaken that, and everybody seems impressed with Dr. Driscoll and some of the steps that he's taken. It must be pretty heartening.
It is, and there's no doubt we do have to do better. We have to do better for our students and their families. As state support, state funding for the universities has lagged, tuition has gone up, fees have gone up. It's becoming more expensive to attend college, and we need to find ways to control those costs. We need to find ways to, maybe to avoid tuition increases entirely in the future. So everybody understands we have to do better. But, I think, again, Dr. Driscoll is now one of the 2 longest-serving presidents in the system. I think
which is kind of shocking.
It is kind of shocking that I think he's been here 7 or 8 years. You don't see long-term serving presidents anymore. You don't see. When I came to the system, 2 decades ago, we had a couple of presidents who were in their, had been in their positions for more than 20 years. You don't see a lot of that anymore. But the stability and the strong leadership that Dr. Driscoll has brought to IUP has been, very, very beneficial, especially in these challenging times. As you mentioned, my daughter is a graduate of IUP. She just graduated, 6 years ago. When she started, Dr. Driscoll hadn't hadn't started yet. But she was here for his first couple of years in office. He's been a very strong leader and a very strong voice, not just for IUP, but among all of the university presidents. And he's again, his leadership is extremely valuable at a time like this.
Couple of moments left with Kenn Marshall from the State System of Higher Education. We'll get to Boomer and the CBS Sports Minute in just a couple of minutes. Dr. Green Stein, of course, will be speaking to the Board of Governors tomorrow, and he's involved in some activities at IUP today, and then he's coming back a little bit later. Talk about his first month on the job, and he really seems like he's brought a new energy. From the outside looking in at the way the state system is operating, it sure looks like this is a guy that's right for the job.
I think so. He's a new kind of leader for the system. I mean, he has a national reputation. Prior to coming to the state system, he worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in their higher education, pushing their higher education agenda and initiatives. He has some bold ideas. He's looking at continuing the system redesign. Transforming the system. I think you'll hear some of that tomorrow when he addresses the board for the first time at a public meeting. I've witnessed that in the 4 campus visits he's made so far, and I think we will see more of that as he settles in and as he is able to begin to implement his vision. I mean, he's acknowledged right up front that the challenges facing Pennsylvania, the declining enrollment, the stagnant state funding, those are problems that are endemic among higher education in America. And he deliberately came here. I mean, he said, he chose the state system as much as the state system chose him, because he wants to address that problem for all of higher education. And he has referred to Pennsylvania as, pretty much ground zero. Yeah. The challenges that we're facing in not just us, but all of higher education. He wants to be part of the solution, and I think he's very energetic, very high energy, and has some transformative ideas, and I think you're going to see that in the days, weeks, months ahead. And
when he comes to IUP in a couple of weeks, get ready to see him zipping around town on a bike.
That's right.
He's a bicyclist.
Yeah, he's done a cycling trip at every one of his campus visits except one. One was rained out. Mm-hmm. But he is an avid cyclist, and he's starting all of his campus tours that way, riding with the local cycling club in the early morning. I get to rest a little bit on those because I'm not on the bike rides. But the rest of the day is jam packed with meetings with students, with faculty and staff, with trustees, with the president and his cabinet, with the public in general. They're really exciting days, and people really get to see what Dr. Green Stein is all about.
Sounds like you're going to have to build your energy up. Get plenty of rest. Yeah. Kenn Marshall, thanks so much for coming in to visit with us.
Sure, I always enjoy it.
We appreciate it very, very much. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.